everyone, thanks for coming back to the Yoga Stretch series. If you don't know, my name is Sarah, and this is our third video in this series, so this one is targeting our lower body. So change into something comfortable, and I'll meet you on your mat, your floor, or wherever you're practicing today, and we'll get started. So we're going to start on standing right now, so we have 20 stretches, and we're going to do the first couple standing. So you can start with your feet either together or hip width apart or even a little wider than hip width if you would like. So once we're all kind of set up how we want to be, just take a moment to take a few deep breaths. Just kind of let any of the stress or hectic energy that you maybe were carrying through your day, just leave it and let it go at the beginning of this little practice here. All right, so our first stretch is going to be the forward fold. So to do that, basically, it's exactly how it sounds. You just start bending forward. I recommend thinking about hinging at the hips. I notice a lot of people kind of bend forward at the waist, but forward fold is not just about the legs, it's the upper body as well. So think about hinging at the hips. You can even place your hands here and kind of feel that hinging motion. And come forward. And maybe you'll only be like right here, hands are on the thighs, knees bent. That's totally cool. Maybe we walk the hands down a little, bring them to the floor. And we're just going to hang out here for a few breaths. You can let the crown of the head drop. You can always clasp opposite elbows if you'd like. Or just let the hands dangle down. Bend your knees if they're not bent already and slowly roll up. So that was the first stretch, forward fold. Our second stretch is downward dog. So we're going to come into this standing posture. I recommend bending your knees and placing both of your palms on the ground. Walk them forwards a little and walk the feet back. The goal of this is not necessarily to have the heels perfectly on the ground, but you're stretching out your calves, hamstrings, the low back, the spine. So it's more about proper alignment than that like stereotypical perfect pose. So just stretch it out here. You can always pedal the feet to get an even deeper calf stretch. I recommend here bending your knees and really pressing your torso towards the tops of your thighs. You'll kind of notice a deeper back stretch here. And then maybe, if it's possible, trying to maintain that same length and deepening in the spine that you did when your legs were bent. Start to straighten the legs. Just breathe. To come out of it, you can either bend your knees and walk your hands towards your feet or feet to hands, either one. For stretch number 3, we're going back into down dog. So feel free to roll out the wrists a little if you're kind of getting tired wrists here. Take a moment to shake them out. We're going back into down dog. So once we're set up in down dog here, this next stretch is a 3-leg dog with knee circles. So really ground down in your right foot and raise that left foot. It doesn't need to be like crazy high or anything, just hip level's good. Just breathe, really anchoring down that back foot and using your inner thigh and your core. Maybe we lift that left leg a little higher. Point and flex the foot. You rotate your ankle. And then bend that knee and start to open up to the left opening up that hip. And we'll take some circles here. And go the other way. And bring the left foot back down. Maybe pedal out the feet in between here. Anchor down through the left foot. Right leg comes up. And we'll point and flex. Maybe some little circles here. And then bend the knee and open up to the right in that hip. And take some circles. And bring that right foot back down. And we're coming out of down dog. All right, stretch number 4, we're going to make our way down onto the mat. So come down onto your knees. And we're going to have them wide here, so knees as wide as the mat, or if you don't have a mat, just a little wider than hip width. Toes together, and we're just going to walk our chest, our torso, towards the ground. This is a wide-legged child pose. And just take a few breaths here. You can always rock your forehead side to side. Maybe walk the fingertips out a little bit farther away from the body. Take one more deep inhale. And on your exhale, use your hands to slowly push yourself back up into a seated position. Stretch number 5 is a toe stretch. If you did the full body yoga stretch series, then you're probably familiar with this one. So basically we're tucking our toes and then sitting back on our heels. And that's it. Just breathing, feeling that stretch in the back of the feet. If this gets like super intense, if you have really tight feet or you're on them a lot, you may already notice this burning. I encourage you to try and stick with it, but you can always come up off of them, so that's taking some of the pressure off because your body weight's not pressing on the feet. Just leave the toes tucked and you'll still feel a stretch. If your feet are really tight, you'll still feel it this way. So for everyone else, we're just going to breathe here for a few moments here. Take one more deep inhale. And then on the exhale, we're gonna come up off the feet, tuck your toes back down, and then sit back down. So from here, we're moving into our 6th stretch, which is basically gonna kind of even out the intense stretch we just did on the feet. So with our toes tucked flat under us, we're gonna start like this. You can place your fingertips on the ground, either by the knees or closer to your hips, and just gently start to rock back on your toes. So you're lifting your knees here. This is a really intense ankle opener, shin stretch, foot stretch. So this is just kind of doing the opposite side of the feet than we just did. Try and sit nice and tall, keeping the shoulders away from the ears. If this is too much, whether it be balance or just the feeling of it, you can always do one leg at a time. So stay in that same position, but just raise one leg and then the other. Or you can just stay here in hero's pose if this is already an intense stretch. Just breathe. And we're going to return gently back to the ground. I want to make sure not to slap those knees down. Our 7th stretch is a head to knee. So we're going to sit on the ground. We're going to extend the right leg out. Left leg, the knee is bent with the sole of the foot and the inside of your right thigh. Sit nice and tall with your abdomen facing towards your foot. So a lot of times it's a natural tendency to sit at an angle because that's where the front of our body is angled. So think about turning your torso so you're facing directly that flexed foot. Raise your arms overhead, and then with legs straight or bent, you can have it bent as much as you'd like. Start to hinge forward, bringing your heart theoretically towards your knee. Imagine as if you're reaching past, sending your energy even past your foot, past the mat, through the wall in front of you, and just melt forward. And remember to breathe here. Make sure if you notice you're clenching or holding your breath, take some big audible breaths to remind yourself that breathing's great. It really helps stretches. Take one more inhale, and then on your exhale, roll up. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So left leg extends, right leg comes in, arms up, and bend forwards. Take 3 more deep breaths here. Breathing on your own with your own pace. And on your 3rd exhale, slowly roll up. So our next stretch is a seated forward fold. So extend the left leg out with the right. Flex the toes, knees can be bent or straight, and raise the arms up overhead. And then imagine you're holding a big beach ball between your hands and you're bringing that up and over your body. So we're not just kind of collapsing forward. Think about that intention, the core strength with it, coming up and over. And just breathe here. This is going to be hanging out for a few breaths. Take one more deep inhale, and on your exhale, slowly roll up. Stretch number 9 is going to be butterfly or bound angle. So we're going to bring the soles of our feet in together. You can hold onto your ankles, shins, or your toes. Sit nice and tall, and bring your heart space forward. When you get to the point that you feel like, that's good, I'm not going any farther. That's cool. Allow your spine to kind of round, and you can let the head drop. Just hanging out wherever you are at. You may notice that the longer you stay in a pose like this, especially in bound angle, that you'll probably start to come closer and closer to your feet, and eventually over time you may even be able to touch your feet with your nose. But just know that that is not the point of this. The whole idea is getting some low back relief and stretching that inner thighs and groin. On your next exhale, we're going to come back up to seated here. And we're going to move on to our 10th stretch. Our 10th stretch is called cow face pose in yoga. So we're going to start in that same bound angle butterfly pose with your feet like this. And take your right leg and cross it over top the left. And you'll kind of swivel your hips so they're both kind of facing front again. And the idea is to have the knees stacked over each other like this, feet out. So the idea is like kind of these are the cow ears. That's what the pose is. But I digress. So we're here in this pose, left knee on top. If that is absolutely not accessible for you, if you have really tight hips or a low back, this may not be practical at all. If that's the case, we can always just cross the top foot like this, so that way your foot is on the ground. You can just sit nice and tall. Or you can place that ankle on the thigh, so we're kind of in a little tighter of a like cross leg. So sit nice and tall. You may already feel a big stretch in your outer hips. So if that's the case, you just stay here. For everyone else, maybe we start to walk our hands forwards, bringing our torso towards the knees. Remember to take deep breaths here. Think about sending your breath towards that spot of your body that you're really stretching out. So whatever that means to you, just think about breathing into the stretch. Use our hands to walk back up, and we're going to switch our legs to do the other side. So right leg on top, left on the bottom. Sit nice and tall. Take a couple deep breaths here. And then maybe we start to walk it out a little bit. On your next exhale, we'll push back up into a seated, and we'll move on to our 11th stretch. So for our next stretch, we're moving into tabletop, which is hands and knees. So we're going to get set up with our wrists under our shoulders and knees under your hips. All right, and then we're going to tuck your right toes, send that right foot back. Maybe you rock forward and back a little, getting a little stretch. And then raise that foot in the air. Try and level off the hips. And then once you've found some balance here, we're going to raise that left arm in front of us. Thumb up, pinky down. And just stay here breathing. This is some core strength, a low back release. Really stretching out the quad, the calf, the foot. If you would like deeper, you can always reach back and grab that foot for a little quad hip stretch, or you can always curl in and do a little ab work. And just hold here for another couple seconds, unless you kind of want to do that on your own, in which case I totally invite and encourage that. Otherwise, we're going to set it back down and do the same thing on the other side. So tuck your left toes, extend the foot. Lift it in the air, level off the hips, and then raise that right arm. Maybe that back leg rises a little bit more, same with that front arm. Again, if you would like to take any variations here, I encourage you to do what feels good for you. And for everyone else, we're going to set it back down onto the ground. From here, we're going into our 12th stretch, which is a low lunge. So step that right foot forward. And you can either stay on the fingertips or come up, place your hands on your thighs, and just stretch out here. So we want to make sure we're not just totally dumping and collapsing all of our weight into the hip here, because that over time will end up damaging the joint. So to make sure that we're not doing that, I recommend coming up out of this, the lunge a little bit, making sure your core is engaged, and then slowly sink back down and see how far you can go before you start to feel more of a collapse like that. So just try and come down. You can always use a block, a table, a chair even, whatever you need, if that will help you maintain that core strength so you're not collapsing fully into the hips here. Or even just putting your hands on the ground. That'll help from avoiding that total dump of weight. If you'd like, in our last few seconds here, maybe you'll take a little heart opener back bend. And come out of it. We're going to switch the other legs. So right goes back, left comes forward. And as always, if you need to scoot like that back knee out or any adjustments you need to make, do so. The idea of this series is basically to provide you with stretches that you can take off the mat into your everyday life. So I really hope that you're able to find some modifications or whatever that you need to make these stretches work for you in your body. Like, I know for me, a lot of times I love using a block in a low lunge, honestly. It's just what I like. Let me take a little heart opener here again. All right, and from here, we're going into our next stretch, which is half splits. So leaving that left foot forward, we're going to roll all the way through onto our heel and just bring your chest towards the knee, the top of the leg here. Make sure to have your that bottom foot, so right now it's the left foot flexed. Rock forward to come out of it and switch the legs. So we're going to do that same half splits, or in yoga it's called the half monkey pose. And once again here, your knee can be either bent or fully straight, but if it is straight, just make sure you have a little micro bend in it. We don't want to lock out through the knees. And to come out of it, we just rock forward through that front foot and step it back, and you're either in tabletop or you're on your knees again. So for our 14th stretch, we're going to be staying in this same kind of lunge, tabletop kind of pose. So come back to a lunge here. Only from here, we're going to kind of inch out that front foot towards the edge of your mat. If you're not using a mat, it's just a little wider than hips, so that front leg will slightly be angled. We're going to come down onto our hands here, so they're both inside of that foot. And you can always step that knee, that left or that back knee back a little bit to make some more room. And look forward a little, so your gaze is just in front of you, if not even just down a little bit. If you'd like to deepen your stretch, you can come down onto your forearms. And from here, you can even tuck that back toes and lift this leg. So you're either here, 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 or you could even be just up like this. We'll hang out here for a few breaths in whatever variation works for you. If your back leg's raised, you can let that come back down to the earth. Come up onto our hands, and we're going to switch out the legs. Alrighty, got a nice lizard set up here. and we're going to get right into the stretch on the other side. Find whatever variation is working on this side of your body. Note that it might be a little different than the other side. Take 3 more breaths wherever you're at. And on your final exhale, we're going to come up out of lizard. And head into our 15 stretch, a wide leg forward fold, which is one of my all-time favorite stretches, probably ever. So we're going to come standing, feet nice and wide. If you extend your arms out, it's kind of the idea is to have the wrists and ankles aligned. But, everybody's bodies are different, so that may not quite be the case, but that's just a general frame of reference for how wide the feet should be. So from here, we're going to place our hands on our hips. Bend the knees slightly so you have a little micro bend so you're not totally locked out. And start to hinge forward. When we get to this kind of flat back shape, if it's okay for your body, we drop the fingertips down to the ground and continue this journey, bending forward. We're just going to hang out here for a few breaths. If you would like to take any twists or any movement here, I fully encourage you to do so. And during this time in this stretch, I'm going to be quiet here and just kind of let you move through and feel this stretch for yourself. And, don't worry, I will guide you and let you know when we're moving on to our next one. When you're ready to come out, generously bend your knees and come right back up. Stretch 16, we're going back onto the ground. So we're going to come into this hero's pose. So sitting with your feet tucked under you. Now from here, you're going to kind of move the calves and your feet out from underneath you. So you're sitting directly on the ground. And then from here, and it's important to use your arms and your hands as support here, we're going to lower ourselves onto the ground, first onto our forearms, and then from here, we can lower ourselves fully onto the ground. This is a really big hip flexor and quad stretch. If you're not feeling like this, no worries. You can just stay sitting upright. Or you can always place a towel or a bolster or something like that under you for a little support. Otherwise, everyone else, just snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you and enjoy the stretch. Another alternative, if you have really tight hips and quads and this isn't accessible to you, you could always do one leg at a time. So have one leg bent and the other either straight out. So that's always another option. come out of this, we'll once again use our hands and our arms to press up. So press into those forearms, press up, and be really gentle and mindful when you're coming out of the seated portion. This is a lot on the knees. I would say that I'm in general, good health with good knees, but even I do feel this sometimes. So if you do have any sort of knee pain or knee injuries, please be very mindful when you're moving in any sort of postures like these. I personally like to press up, kind of swing my feet to one side, and then come out of it like that. I find it's the most gentle and the easiest on my knees as well. So stretch 17 is Pigeon, which this is, besides wide leg forward fold, one of my other favorite stretches. And you've probably heard me say that a bunch by now, that that's my favorite stretch, but I swear Pigeon really is. So we're going to come into that tabletop pose again. And this time we're going to bring the right knee through the front leg, or through the front hands, tuck those back toes and kind of scoot out that back leg. So you're going to be sitting in a position like this. Now, if you're here and you're thinking, all right, this isn't too bad, start to scoot, or you can literally take your hand and move your front foot out a little more, so you're starting to create a wider angle with this front knee. Just sit up nice and tall. Also be mindful that you're not totally rolling over. We don't want to be like open here. The idea is to have the hips squared off, facing front. So we're on our fingertips, sitting nice and tall. If you'd like to deepen this stretch, we're going to start to come down onto our forearms, just like we were in lizard. Or we can even extend the arms, melting the chest and the head down onto the mat. If this stretch is not accessible to you, you can always place a towel, blanket, or block underneath your hips here to lift yourself up. That can always help. Otherwise, an alternative for this stretch, everybody else stay in Pigeon a little longer here. Another alternative is to do a seated figure 4 like this. So you have one leg crossed on top of the other one. This is still going to be targeting similar outer thigh stretch area that the Pigeon will. It's not going to be quite the same sensation, but that's definitely the best and closest alternative to doing Pigeon. So for everyone else, take a few more deep breaths wherever you're at. And we're going to be heading on to the other side. So pressing up, we're going to come into that tabletop and then bring that left knee through the front hands, walk that back right leg out, get situated here, kind of level off your hips, do whatever you need to do before we get into the stretch. And we're either going to be here, come down onto our forearms, or again, maybe we take it all the way down. If you have any sort of low back issues or really tight hips, for me, I find this to be a huge release, and sometimes I've even stayed in this Pigeon pose for up to like 5, 6, 7 minutes before, just because it is like hitting the exact spot that my body needs. So this is definitely one of those poses that if it feels comfortable, feel free to stay here literally as long as you would like. It is truly a very beneficial, wonderful pose to do. Take one more deep inhale. And on your exhale, we're going to start to walk it back up. And we're going to come back into that tabletop. So bring both of the knees back. And we're here heading into our next stretch. So our next stretch is Happy Baby. So we're going to be flipping onto our back. So with Happy Baby, we're going to bring the knees up to the chest once they're on your back. Hands go between the knees, grabbing the outer edges of your feet. Think about bringing the soles of your feet up to the sky or ceiling. Knees go wide, and imagine as if you're kind of pulling the knees gently towards the shoulders while also kicking away. So you have this kind of counter forces, a pushing and a pulling. Feet pushing away, hands pulling down. This is really snuggling into the hip sockets, getting a nice back of the thigh stretch. This is one of those stretches though, if this is intense, you can always do one leg at a time. So you could just go like this, kind of a little stirrup posture here. Otherwise, everyone else, we're going to be here with both legs. And you can always rock side to side. That's one of my favorite things to do in Happy Baby. Feels great on the low back and spine. When you're ready to release this, bring the feet together, hands together, and just let those feet drop. Our 19th stretch is a reclined twist. So bringing those knees back up again. Arms are going to go out wide next to you. I have a wall right here, so I'm not. But otherwise, extend your arms out wide. In my case, I'm just going to have them down kind of next to me here. And let the knees drop over to one side. And this is getting a nice spinal twist. Getting that back. If you want a deeper stretch, you can take that bottom foot, so that left foot, and cross it over top the right leg. And maybe we look past your right shoulder, turning onto your right ear. Rocking back through center, we're going to take it onto the other side, so letting the legs drop over to the right. Maybe if you find that deepening of a twist, and looking out to the left. Don't be surprised if you hear a little back cracks or anything like that. I know a lot of times when I do twists, that happens, so just embrace those little moments with your body. And we're going to come back through center. And with the knees up like this, something I love kind of ending a practice, just let the feet just drop. Just hear that nice thud, letting that total release. You can do it a couple more times if you'd like. And extend the legs. Arms out besides you. And this is our final little stretch here. It's Shavasana or corpse pose, but Shavasana definitely sounds way better than corpse pose. And just lay here, shoulders snuggled under your body, away from your ears. Just taking this moment to allow the benefits of all those stretches in this practice to enter you. And to find a last moment of peace before we get up off the mat and move out into the world. Bring the palms together. Bring them up to your third eye, right between your eyebrows here. Thank you for practicing with me and for sharing your time and your energy. And I will see you back on the mat next Monday for our part 4. Namaste, everybody. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope you really found some beneficial stretches that you can take off the mat and into your everyday life. If you found this video to be great for you, I hope you like it, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe to my Lost and Found Outdoors YouTube page. So I hope you guys enjoyed it and have a great day. Bye.